Hey everyone, what's up? What's going on? My name's Joe, and this, I can assure you, is a very short, like minute and a half pre-roll that we do before the podcast. I really just have two things to tell you guys. And one is to join the How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The Facebook group on Facebook. It's a great place to find movie trailers, news, and memes. We even read people's reviews from the group on our podcast. So, like speaking of, if you have any opinions about Skyscraper, Mamma Mia 2, Mission Impossible, Fallout, let us know, because I'm pretty sure those are the next three that we're going to be reviewing. And two, go support the podcast by buying some of our lovely merch. I mean, we've got stickers, we've got koozies, we've got t-shirts, and you can find them all at howmanyfingerspodcast.bigcartel.com. And you could find almost anything out about us at howmanyfingerspodcast.com. And we're coming up on that minute 30 mark, so let's just get right into the review. We're going to be reviewing Ant-Man and the Wasp this week. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Joe.
And you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The podcast. And this week we're reviewing Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Critics can't stop buzzing about this movie.
Welcome to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? Featuring two guys getting battle passes and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
And that came to us from Michael Bohr on Facebook.
Oh, thank you, Michael. We were literally just playing Fortnite before we recorded this episode. Working on my battle pass, trying to get me to that level 100 before the season's over. But yeah, this week we're drinking something different. I saw this in the seasonal section. We were debating about whether this is seasonal or not. This is Mad Bark Apple Cinnamon Hard Cider from Cider Boys.
Cider Boys gets me. Them Cider Boys.
Cider Boys in the building. What's up?
Yeah, I feel like, you got this from the seasonal aisle. And I said, I thought summer was more of like a shandy kind of.
They had a bunch of ciders over there.
That's weird.
This specifically is definitely a fall type of cider. I feel like apple cinnamon.
Doesn't feel seasonal for summer at all. Oh yeah, it literally smells like apple pie.
Yeah, it is very good.
It tastes pretty good too.
I enjoy this. A lot.
That tastes like that has that like apple pie seasoning taste too. Oh yeah, that's pretty good.
It's got that cinnamon. Or it's like apple cinnamon Cheerios.
Yeah.
One of my favorite cereals of all time.
You know what I like? You know what I like that I never realized that I like, that's like can also be grouped in kind of this kind of like Mike's Hard Lemonade kind of. Like I feel like I don't like any ciders or fruity drinks or anything like malt liquor based kind of like the like my girlfriend and her friends every summer kind of go through a phase, not this summer yet, go through a phase of
it's
kind of like limeritas or whatever, like that kind of stuff. But I don't know if maybe I brought them on when I first discovered them, but Twisted Tea is actually not that bad.
We had a bunch of those. We were camping last weekend. And
tastes like iced tea.
Someone like happened to bring a bunch of those, and it was like a godsend because it was like really, really hot out, and it was like too hot for a beer, but like a alcoholic like iced tea was like, all right, this is pretty nice.
Because I do. It's something that literally tastes like an iced tea. It's just, I mean, you can taste that fucking malt liquor in there too. It has a little bit of a bite, but I enjoy it. Yeah,
this is good. This is a good buy. Too, sponsor us, Cider Boys. We're the movie boys.
We're the movie boys.
Oh boy. But we're reviewing Ant-Man and the Wasp this week, 2 for 1. Let me read the IMDb description, then Joe, I believe, has some Joe notes.
That I do.
About this fucking 40th Marvel movie. As Scott Lang balances being both a superhero and a father, Hope Van Dyne and Dr. Hank Pym present an urgent new mission that finds the Ant-Man fighting alongside the Wasp to uncover secrets from their past.
All right. Well, Ant-Man and the Wasp is directed by Peyton Reed. And Peyton Reed has directed a lot, really. I really only included feature-length films in here just because there's so much television that he directed. But Peyton Reed has directed Bring It On, Down with Love, The Breakup, Yes Man, Yes Man, Yes Dude.
Yes, dude.
And Ant-Man. This was written by the writing teams of Chris McKenna and Eric Summers and Paul Rudd, Andrew Barrar, and Gabriel Ferrari. Cool name, dude.
Vroom vroom.
That's the first time I've seen Wikipedia refer to a writing credit as directed by the writing teams of.
Yeah, multiple writing teams.
Yeah.
The Eric Summers sounds familiar. What has he done? That team.
I could tell you.
I feel like we've done some of his movies this year or last year.
Let me peep that. Oh, Spider-Man Homecoming.
He worked on that? I wonder if they're just some the Marvel overarching writers that.
Did he do? Oh, he might just. I might have blew my load. Okay, he's doing. Oh wait, no, wait. Here it is.
Lego Batman movie.
No, here he is.
Chris McKenna did at least.
Oh, okay. No, he's doing Spider-Man Far From Home.
But he did do Homecoming.
I don't think so.
Chris McKenna did.
Oh, no, it's here. Yes. I'm just oblivious to everything. Did you see how
Paul Rudd's a writer on this as well?
I just said that.
I blew right past that because I was listening for the writing teams. Wow.
Yeah, and Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, and yeah, again, a ton of TV. All these dudes have done a ton of TV.
So it's 5 credited writers, 2 teams, and Paul Rudd, or is Paul Rudd part of one of the teams?
Yeah, it kind of looks like there's 2 writing teams and Paul Rudd kind of in the middle.
I wonder if that's just Paul Rudd improvising enough that they're I guess you get a writing credit because you made up most of your lines.
Yeah, I don't know. But it stars Paul Rudd and Evangeline. What is her name?
Evangeline Lilly.
Oh, Evangeline
Kate.
Lilly.
We have to go back.
I didn't watch Lost, Mike. Alongside Michael Pena, Walton Goggins, Bobby Cannavale, Judy Greer, Tip T.I. Harris, David Dastmalchian, Hannah john-kamen, Abby Ryder Fortson, Randall Park, Michelle Pfeiffer, Lawrence Fishburne, and Michael Douglas. It is the sequel to 2015's Ant-Man, and it is the 20th film in Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Are we only at 20? Why does it feel like we're at?
I don't know. It feels like...
I thought for certain it was going to be 28 or something.
Is this forever? I don't know. Oh, man. I think I said this in a previous episode, but I really don't like the trailer to this film.
Yeah.
It's just not great. I think the musical choice is not great. I don't know. And maybe it's also because I'm just going to come out and say it. I haven't seen the first Ant-Man.
Mm-hmm.
So I honestly don't know if seeing the first Ant-Man would have helped me like this trailer.
You're not missing a whole lot.
Okay.
Although, I mean, I feel like I'm on the opposite side of the fence there in terms of the general public. I feel like most people liked Ant-Man. They thought it was funny and just lighthearted and fun. And it is kind of those things, but I just found it to be like weirdly offensive at times. Like it goes
really?
into some weird stereotypes, especially with like the Michael Pena character, like being a thief, and there's just it gets into some weird territory that I thought was very strange for a Marvel movie, and it's just kind of ridiculous at parts. It was like more concerned with like punchlines than it was with like being a cool movie that made sense.
Right.
Anyway, but I mean, Ant-Man is just already a kind of a cartoony character, so maybe that's what other people were looking for, and that worked for them.
This is weird. It's a weird movie. It's especially because, I mean, we have Guardians of the Galaxy, which is funny, but it's also kind of this Star Wars-esque. I don't classify that as a superhero movie, besides it just being under Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm trying to think of what else. What are other humorous like superhero movies?
I mean, like
Marvel
Thor was definitely trying to be
Thor Ragnarok. That's
Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah, Spider-Man Homecoming. So there's been a lot of like comedic superhero movies that have come out lately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. This is different, and I can almost see like the director's fingerprints on it from what he's dealt with before. Yeah, let me just say, I saw this last night, pretty late, and they fucking projected it wrong. Like, you know when you can see like chunks of the movie on either side like projecting onto like the curtain that they like what the fuck are you guys doing, man? And also, I'll get into this, but I think something needs to fucking change with Marvel and the way that we get into these movies, because they try to kind of have this like, oh, before we go into the Marvel kind of cutaway title sequence, whatever that is, and it'll just kind of, a trailer will end, there's a moment of silence, and then all of a sudden we're in the movie. Mm-hmm. And it's so jarring, and it's almost never done right. And this is arguably the worst beginning of a movie I've ever seen, kind of. And honestly, I kind of want to compare notes with what we saw, because like I am kind of almost convinced that the beginning of this movie was kind of like cut weirdly with my like personal theater. And like it was that bad. I was so turned off.
I didn't get the jarring. I think that the intro is kind of bad because it's just kind of corny.
I said the same thing with Black Panther, though. I was like, no, we got to do something. We got to have some sort of like title card before we get into. It's too. It looks like the next trailer. It's too much. It's too. No other movie.
I think the difference is like at the theater that I'm at, like at Cinemark, like they play all the trailers and then they go and do their Cinemark thing where it's like, well, hope you'll come back to Cinemark to see these upcoming titles. Turn your cell phone off and enjoy the movie or whatever. It's just their standard thing, and then you know that the next thing you're gonna see is the movie. And there's kind of like there's no title card, but there's like a long pause with black. And then the movie comes on. Like it's pretty clear at Cinemark that a movie is coming up next, that the trailers are over.
Okay. I don't know. I saw this at AMC. I always
thought AMC did that stuff too, because AMC has their own like sequence thing that they play after the trailers.
And then I did.
I know what I did. I saw this at AMC.
Really?
I saw this on Thursday, so I would have seen it at AMC. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I did. I saw Black Panther at Regal, and both of them kind of have like AMC last night did like a. I feel like AMC does like a thing, and then they'll have like more trailers. Mm-hmm. You know, it's kind of like welcome to AMC, yada yada yada. Like we have trailers. I think
they have like a beginning one,
right?
Because they have a one that's like, here's what's coming next at AMC, and then they do the trailers, and then they have their like, blah blah blah. I hope you'll come back and see these, whatever. And
okay,
it's literally like the same thing as like Cinemark. Just
they do that, but then they turn off the lights and they played like 3 more trailers.
Oh,
they played like they at least played Mission Impossible trailer after they turned the lights off, kind of, and then there were 2 more. I can't remember what they were, but anyway,
they might have been like late editions, like they got the trailers late after they already had the packet that they were playing beforehand.
It also seemed like they were really pushing Mission Impossible. I don't know, but anyway, if it's not working for all theaters, I think there's, I don't know, it's not working for me.
Mm-hmm. I do know that AMC, like they've started selling movie merch now.
Yes.
So they have like an interest in pushing certain movies at AMC now.
Oh,
like
most
obviously,
definitely.
like a Star Wars needs to do well because they need people to come and buy merch at AMC.
Yeah, Regal's...
Or, you know, I don't know if I can't imagine that Mission Impossible is going to have a whole ton of merch, but I know a lot of like the kids movies have merch now, the Pixar ones, and the big like tentpole like Avengers had merch, Star Wars had merch at AMC.
Yeah, I forgot to pull this out during the like Avengers Infinity War, but they started giving out these like very like thick kind of cardstock little booklets, kind of.
Yeah, you did tell me about that. And
then, yeah, I think I even showed it to you, and they're very nicely printed. I really don't understand the purpose of them besides like a large movie like stub, kind of. And then you can also put it into like the Regal app in your phone, and then I don't know, it like unlocks like, oh, like you can see Thanos in your camera if you point it in a direction. It's just dumb.
Yeah.
But I know they're like pushing Mission Impossible like that way, but yeah, I don't know. I think something needs to change with the way that.
What makes you think that the actual intro is cut differently, though?
Because literally, okay, we have trailer, 2 seconds. Girl talking to her mom before they leave on like business or whatever.
You didn't get the narration from Hank Pym to start it off?
What was the narration over?
I want to say it was just like weird, like quantum looking stuff.
I didn't get that. I think my movie cut into like the middle of like the beginning, kind of.
That's weird. So maybe they just like, I don't know exactly how projection. I would imagine you have to start the projection from the beginning, but I mean, maybe there's a way where they just started it late in the reel.
It was weird.
But you would think the Marvel would be coming with a digital package, right?
Right. It was very strange. I don't know. I was literally like, this is the most bullshit like beginning of a movie, and it was just kind of like, oh, like, mommy, why do you have to go on like vacation or why do you have to go on a business trip, kind of, and it like started on that, and I was kind of like,
no, the beginning starts with Hank talking to, what is it, Hope? Yeah, Kate is what I'll call her.
Right.
Hank talking to Kate and being blah 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 about like your mother, you know, when you were younger, and he's basically explaining like where she went, because that scene leads to him being like, and I think we can go get her back.
Okay.
Did you get like the end of that scene in there? Like, that's what I'm trying to figure. Is this a different cut, or is this just them starting late? Was there any Hank narration?
I honestly can't remember that much. It was just so confusing. I mean, I see them go into the missile, and I see them.
He's not narrating over that?
I don't think so. I don't know. And then
he's definitely narrating over that, because he's saying like, oh, like your mother.
Okay.
You know, it should have been me.
Oh,
but your mother
my suit was like malfunctioning.
Yeah.
Okay. So there is. This is just such a dumb thing to spend so much time on. But no,
man.
I do think I missed. I do think we cut into the middle of something. It was just very confusing. I was like, what the fuck?
It's it's a little jarring either way, just because it's immediately like narration and I'm talking to someone, and it's just kind of a weird way to open up.
But that's also like literally exactly how Black Panther opened up. And that was a little more reasonable, kind of, because I was like, okay, I know what they're doing. Hey, this might have caught me off guard from the way that it started, but I at least know what this narrative device is doing. It, like, cut into the middle of, like, a mom and daughter talking, you know? Like, kind of like, oh, we're going away for it. And I was just kind of like, okay, what is this? Like, it literally, like, I had a feeling I was cutting in the middle of something just because it just felt so mid-sentence. Like, why would anybody make this cut?
Yeah. No, it starts, like, kind of dark with, like, you hear his voice and he's... I mean, I think you only missed, like, 2 or 3 seconds before that. Right. He's establishing, and then it starts there. And it's... I think he's talking about, like, the last time you saw your mother or something like that. He's talking to Hope in the scene that we eventually see after that when he's coming out of that flashback.
This is why I like going to my one fucking theater. They never fuck stuff up. Anytime I go to another theater, I feel like people are always fucking shit up. And it's literally, it's stupid. I don't know. I just like the one time I go to a fucking AMC theater.
I'm sorry. Sorry AMC let you down.
It's okay. Well, when MoviePass inevitably crashes, we're probably going to have to get that AMC MoviePass.
It won't make sense for me because Cinemark is closest to me. I only go to AMC if I'm like, a movie time after work in Sussex County makes more sense than driving home and going to Cinemark by me.
Yeah, same with me. I have a bunch of Regals near me. They just opened an AMC, but it's more inconvenient than my Regals.
Yeah. So anyway, the beginning of this movie after that,
I apologize for how much fucking time I spent on trying to clarify that, but I was about to rage if that was like
the actual beginning. No, you definitely got
it. Okay. But I actually really like this movie. I was into it. I was like, okay. Like, I think you even said you were like, kind of like I was like, oh man, I'm dreading seeing like a fucking another Marvel movie. And you're like, no, it has some laughs.
Yeah,
and I was
it's very watchable. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely an improvement on the first, just to kind of get some big picture ideas about this movie out. I do have to say that I think it coming off of Avengers Infinity War, because this is the first Marvel movie since Infinity War, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of weird because it's very light in tone. And there's no mention of Infinity War in the body of this film.
Right.
Although there is mention of it in the post-credits scene, or mid-credits scene. I didn't stay to see if there was a post-credits scene, because I've only got patience for one mid-credits scene.
I looked it up on my phone, read it, and left.
There's just the one, though, right?
What?
The one mid-credits scene, because like sometimes movies will have 2 or 3. They'll have like a mid-credits one, and then after the credits are fully done, there's a thing there too.
The one that acknowledges Infinity War.
Yeah, I saw that one. I'm just making sure there's not one after that.
There was one after that, and I read it, and I was like, I'm not sticking around.
One is too much.
I literally did that for one of the Guardians movies, where I was just like, there's how many? And what happens in them? And I just like walked out of the theater. I was like, I don't fucking want to stay around for that.
Yeah. When I saw Solo, like everyone was sitting in the theater during the credits because we've been kind of conditioned with these like big blockbuster movies to like, is there a post-credit scene? I was Googling and there's all these articles where the title is just, is there a post-credit scene in Solo? Mm-hmm. And then like they have like these bullshit like 2 or 3 paragraphs, and then it's like, in conclusion, no, there's no post-credit scene in Solo. So they just like get all these stupid bullshit clicks out of you because you're just, yes or no, is there a post-credit scene I have to sit for?
But yeah, Avengers Infinity War came out a whole 2 months ago. And
yeah. Ant-Man it's strange. It's definitely a like goofier universe that they're existing in.
This definitely came out on purpose after Infinity War, just because I feel like this is the place where they could fit it. Kinda,
yeah, and I guess it's like a palate cleanser after whatever happened in Infinity. But it's just it's a little strange. That's not really a complaint that I'm levying against Ant-Man. That's just more an observation of we watched like one of like the grimmest superhero movies in Avengers Infinity War, and then you come into Ant-Man and it's like fucking like life-size ants and shit and quantum like physics stuff, and just like it's a straight up comedy for most of this movie. It seems like their main mission is to get laughs in a lot of this movie.
Yeah, there is a lot of. I mean, yeah. Well, yeah. Let's talk about it though. The first scene. I mean, a lot of this movie is probably going to be just me being like my assumption from the original movie, and you'll have to correct me. But I mean, he's like a petty kind of criminal, who went to jail. I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, him and his crew, like all the guys that are at the ex-con security business that they're forming,
right?
They all tried to rob Hank Pym. I think that's where he gets the suit from, and then starts using it, and then they like track him down, and then he's like, "Oh, blah blah blah, I can teach you to be Ant-Man or whatever," and it's this whole thing where like him and like Hope are teaching him, and Hope never really gets to like be in the suit, and that's kind of like a point of like conflict with her and her father, is like, why is he like get to be in the suit and be doing whatever, and like I'm old enough, I should be able to be in the suit or whatever.
Right. Because he's a criminal, I guess, is why he was in the suit, because he had just a criminal.
I don't even remember the
instinct, and then she knows kung fu, I guess.
Yeah, I was not a fan of the first movie. It was watchable in theaters, but like I had no desire to watch it again, and there was a lot of things that I kind of just pushed out of my mind because it was stupid. Even for like a Marvel movie, I was like, this is just, why are we all like going goo goo gaga over this? This is a pretty silly movie.
I honestly don't remember like a lot of praise for it.
I mean, I don't think it was like compared to like some of the praise that was levied for like Thor Ragnarok or Spider-Man or obviously Avengers Infinity War. Nowhere near that level. But I remember people being excited for Ant-Man coming out. It was kind of like introducing another character, whereas the other movies that had been coming out for a while were like, another Thor movie, another Iron Man movie, another Captain America movie, and it was all the same Avengers we had already met. This was like introducing someone new. I think people were excited about that at the time, so it was kind of a big deal.
But yeah, we start out and he is under house arrest for...
I really love Randall Park in this movie.
Oh, same. He's really
the
great.
FBI agent. There's like moments where because like, I mean, we were watching Randall Park he would be in the what was this Magic Hugs like sketches, and like they're really known, or at least in those sketches, his style of humor was this like awkward, like sort of like stunted like dialogue that was, it was almost like alternative comedy or like Tim and Eric like type stuff, where it was just like, how awkward can you make something sound? And I feel like he really lets that side of his comedy shine in this role,
right?
Where like he keeps like misinterpreting like interactions. Like there's the one interaction like later in the movie where Ant-Man says Randall Park thinks he's like inviting him to dinner, and he's like, no, why would I invite you to dinner? And he's like, yeah, I know, that's what I was thinking. Like, why would you why would that be appropriate at all? And I don't know, he's one of my favorite parts of this movie, absolutely. Randall Park,
yeah,
as the FBI agent.
Oh, definitely. I don't know, just some of that was weird, where I was just kind of like, why is... I don't know. I don't want to question it too much. Like, I'm just going to assume that Ant-Man was kind of like the only one caught, in the whole Avengers
that was
Civil War.
Sometimes Marvel does this thing where they like assume that you like exactly remember what happened in the previous movies. And like, I mean, I guess I have to give them a little bit of credit for not like completely like beating us over the head with exposition for stuff we've already seen. But sometimes I feel like they're too sly and subtle with it in the ways that they like insert it into like dialogue. And like Ant-Man was in 2015. I saw it like in theaters when it came out, so I'm a little fuzzy on like what happened at the end of Ant-Man. So
there's a gang war going on outside.
Yeah, there's a lot of fireworks going off. And then like even just seeing Avengers: Infinity War like 2 months ago, I'm like, Captain America 2 or 3 years ago. I'm like, I can't remember. Like, did they address that stuff in Captain America? Like
I don't think so.
Him getting caught at all?
No, definitely not.
It's just a weird. It's a weird thing in Marvel movies where you don't know like what happened at the end of the last movie. Sometimes I feel like they need like a previously in the Marvel Cinematic Universe like thing before a movie.
Right, definitely. But yeah, so he's under house arrest and he has 3 days left, and
I kind of think that's a nice. I liked that part of the script. That was a nice sort of.
Maybe because he's a previous criminal is why he's. I don't know. I'm just making excuses for the. Why he's
they say that he violated the Sokovia
Accords.
Accords. I just don't know. Did that happen in. Like, I know the events happened in Captain America, but it was just confusing about, like. Yeah, like, was it something that where he was. Because I know he, at the end of. The first Ant-Man, I think he gets arrested. I can't remember. I didn't know if he was just staying arrested because of the Sokovia Accords thing, and it was a longer sentence or something, or just not a great memory of what happened before. They didn't do a great job of being like, here's where we are and here's where we came from, and
it just also seems like maybe
didn't really matter. Yeah. It was a small detail, but I did like that sort of concept of like this. It immediately established this like urgency. You knew immediately like that's how long this movie is going to take place over is 3 days, and the movie's going to end when we get to the end of those 3 days. It was just kind of like a nice device to throw in there to give us a nice sense of time going on, and it was nice that like like all the times where it gave us a motivation for him, like he's just trying to get through these 3 days without like violating his parole so that he can leave his house and actually spend real time with his daughter outside of his house and keep her entertained and stuff like that.
Yeah. I was just like, why couldn't they wait 3 days for him to be off house arrest? I mean, again, I feel like they're kind of...
I mean, that's the other thing is that that's the other thing that I'm confused about. Are they mad because of what happened in Infinity or
Civil
War off screen, or is this something that had to do with the end of the first Ant-Man? Again, I can't remember exactly how that movie ended, and
it seems like
I don't know why I'm asking you. You didn't see Ant-Man.
No,
but...
I mean it seems like they're in trouble. Yeah, no, it seems like they're in trouble with the FBI via their involvement with the suit, kind of. Which is crazy, because it's not like Einstein is, like, charged with, like, the atom bomb. Or it's just...
Yeah, I mean, I guess if they create the suit, it's like they're helping someone become a superhero, and being a superhero is a violation of the Sokovia Accords. But...
Right. It's a little bit of a stretch, but yeah, I think they're on the run from the FBI. They're mad at him because, yeah, he participated in Civil War or whatever.
It's just strange. It's like there's a lot of times where I had to like remind myself, like, oh, they're not really like talking right now, or they're not, whatever. I feel like that was supposed to explain something. I brought it up for a reason, and I can't remember why I brought it up.
I think I was like, why didn't they wait 3 days until he was...
Oh, yeah. Because they don't care, because they're mad at him right now. Right. So it's like, we need this thing right now. We're not waiting, for the best time frame that's best for you. We literally just need your mind for this task that we're going through. again, just another reminder of how like forgettable I thought the first Ant-Man was. I don't remember him going into the quantum realm in that movie at all. Like, I'm sure it did happen. It sounds like a plot point from that movie, but it was not very memorable. That sequence in that movie at all.
Yeah.
It's also just a goofy concept too.
So it
Going quantum.
Yeah. Also, like, the physics of him in the beginning, kind of like with his one foot going through the fence. I don't know. I was just like, there's a lot of like just physics of this movie where it's like his foot going through the fence is like a violation, or like they know when he's in like the.
Well, they set up a border, so once the ankle goes outside the border, it triggers the alarm.
Right, but like, wouldn't it be like your fence isn't like aligned with the front wall of your house? It's more like the center. I mean, I guess that's...
Well, I think they put borders
true.
around your whole property.
Or it's just like they also like know when he's in the upstairs bathroom and everything. I don't know. It was just like a lot of like weird kind of like... I feel like we don't have that technology, but maybe in like superhero universe we do.
I don't know about the upstairs bathroom thing. That might have just been them running up the stairs or whatever.
Right.
I think it's just they put up like, they set up points that are borders around the house, and if any step outside of it triggers the alarm, because you're allowed to be in your yard or whatever. And that's what he's mad about, is like his ankle goes outside the border, and he's like, you really have to, like, this is unnecessary. I happen to have stick my foot outside, and they're like, the rules. If the alarm gets triggered, we gotta sweep the house and make sure.
Right. But it's like they know, I don't know. It's weird. Like later when they have like the ant cover for him, like they know like the schedule of like what he's doing, like he's in the bathroom, then he's in front of the TV, and then he's wherever. I don't know. It just didn't make sense in my mind, like GPS wise, kind of.
The FBI knows where he is?
Yeah.
Where did that part come up?
What's her name?
I thought that
Hope describes it to him or whatever.
I thought Hope knew his schedule.
okay.
I didn't think it was the FBI.
Oh, okay. So they've been like watching him or whatever.
I assume so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I didn't think it was an FBI thing.
Oh, okay, right.
Because I think that's why they said they were.
Because that's why the ant was in specific places during the day, kind of. Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
I guess just to make it seem as natural as possible.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. But yeah. So we set up this whole thing where he has... I mean, I guess we don't have to go through plot points, really. Do we? This plot's weird. I mean, he's under house arrest. He's got his daughter. He's got to do 3 more days. He goes in the bath, and then he has basically like a quantum realm dream. Yeah. And he recognizes that when he looks in the mirror or something, that he's what's his name's wife, Hank's
Michelle Pfeiffer, Janet
wife, and so he calls Hank and he says, this is weird, but I had a dream that I was your wife, yada yada yada. And then Hope basically comes in and kidnaps him. And they are convinced that he has a message that that Hank's wife, Hope's mother, has left kind of coordinates of the quantum realm in his brain. And that's where this kind of, he's like, I'm on house arrest, and they're like, this will just take towards till lunch. And
they have to go get like one more part for the
right.
machine, and then the part gets stolen. That's when we get introduced to the ghost character, the Destiny Hunter character.
Yes, she chose the Destiny Hunter class, or somebody who was supposed to do character design.
She's got a great super in that class. Was it supers or ultras in Destiny?
Supers,
yeah.
Somebody who was supposed to do like the bad guy character design that night was just playing Destiny all night and was like, oh shit, what's this do tomorrow? And like just drew the hunter class.
Without any texture, it's just like grayscale.
Is it supposed to just be all white? Yeah. Yeah.
No color whatsoever.
And it's ghost, like in Destiny.
Like the ghost, yeah. This is totally my idea.
But even before that, the kind of business deal, like the failed business deal that happens between her and this Sunny character, which I love this character with like Walton Goggins or whatever the fuck his name is. I almost wish there was like I think there needs to be a Ghost to like push. I think Ghost is like not a great antagonist. I mean, she's obviously not funny, kind of. But this Walton Goggins is like so funny.
Oh, you thought so?
Oh, I definitely did. And
I really appreciated what he did for the plot. Like it creates this kind of nice tripod of people who are trying to, either get the lab or get the part or get whatever. But I usually like him in a lot of roles, but I thought he was a little bland and boring in this role. He's just kind of playing like a stock character, like.
Oh yeah. I mean, I have questions about like how does he know about the portable lab? Kind of like he knows a lot of stuff that like even if he has an FBI informant or friend or whatever, I'm kind of like, okay, that's like a large jump in logic. And like, how do you know something like that? Like, but
well, this wasn't gotten across in the movie, but I just was looking at the Wikipedia and I saw that he had a clickable name. So I was like, oh, I guess he's a character from the comics.
Okay.
He's a minor villain of Iron Man in Marvel Comics. He worked for Cross Technological Enterprises as the Undersecretary of Acquisition, Technology, and Logistics. So I guess the backstory, which isn't gone into in this movie, is that he has a science background and works for a company that sort of like competes to Stark Industries.
Okay.
So
well, it seems like
that makes sense, but that's not expressed in the movie. But I didn't notice, like, he wasn't like talking like a whole lot of like scientific jargon or anything about the lab.
Right.
I think he just saw that it was important.
Yeah. I like that he's kind of this like black market technology dealer, and that he's got this cover of like this like high scale kind of like
ethical like restaurant,
right? Yeah. And I don't know, I like this movie kind of gets into like a lot of like Baby Driver kind of territory-esque.
With what?
This movie definitely, I haven't looked it up, but this movie seems like it's filmed in Atlanta. It seems like one of those films. There's a lot of kind of, I mean, when he's in pursuit of Ant-Man later, it feels very kind of Baby Driver-ish, like chase scene, and then it kind of also has that kind of like criminal crew element with like his criminal crew. I don't know, it has a lot of similar vibes, and I like that. I don't know. I like his character. He's just even when like Michael Pena is kind of on like the truth serum or something, he's not totally impatient. Or he's like, listen, I like I love a good backstory and like I love context in a story, but I really got to be going where I'm going. Kind of like it's very humorous.
Yeah. It is also just very, I think maybe what I was less amused by is that it's just Walton Goggins. Like, he plays this role a bunch of times. Like it's like his stock character that he plays a bunch of the time. He does have some really out there roles that are pretty good. He plays like a transvestite like prostitute on Sons of Anarchy, which was like a really great role for him. He was fantastic in that. I never saw it, but I feel like I think he was in Justified, right? Opposite Timothy Oliphant. Anyway, I guess the other major character that's introduced is the Bill Foster and like the partnership between him and Hank that previously existed. Again, I don't remember a whole lot from the first Ant-Man movie because it's so forgettable, but I don't know if that was like something that was established or if this is something that's kind of being shoehorned in to this movie just because it's convenient and we need another character to relate Hank to. Wasn't my favorite thing, but I do like. I think Lawrence Fishburne is actually pretty good in this.
Oh, same, yeah.
He actually has some like kind of funny parts in the beginning, like especially his interaction with Paul Rudd when they're talking about like how big they got. Is pretty good, and then he has some like more like emotional stuff later on where you kind of relate to him a little bit later on in the movie.
Right.
Just like he brings a little bit. Like Marvel's been on like a pretty good streak with like relatable villains. Where again, like they're doing messed up stuff, but like, you know, you have a little bit of sympathy for them or empathy with them at times. Like especially with this character Ghost, like someone who's just experiencing like chronic pain all the time and is willing to do whatever to, you know, make it right. And even like Bill, who is like betraying Hank and all them and selling them, you know, down the river. Is also kind of like, well, like I won't be a part of going that far. Like, you know, it's not worth that much. We'll find another way. There has to be another way. I think like stuff like that makes for good villains because it's not about like, oh, like they're so crazy they'll do anything. It's, you know, they feel like real people with, you know, in real circumstances, which is a weird thing to say about a movie with like quantum like time travel shit and like. Not time travel, but just quantum traveling. And
that's one of my big complaints about this movie is that I don't know. It's not a movie that needs to get caught up in technical jargon, but there's so many minutes of screen time just wasted being like, I think we gotta like readjust the refractors on the quantum suit, you know, and it's just kind of like, all right, like, what is this accomplishing, really? You know?
Yeah, I mean, and they do kind of like try to cover their asses. I feel like that's the one thing with like a movie like this that's like irreverence, not the word, but it doesn't really take itself that seriously. It's something that they could have done it in like Deadpool 2 or Deadpool like by just breaking the fourth wall in a way like this, and they almost are like it's like a fourth wall like nod here, where the one scene where Paul Rudd's like, "Do you guys just put like the word quantum before like everything?" And,
right,
like,
yeah.
It is a funny line, but it also does kind of feel like a little bit of like a cop out, like
right.
You know, like they're just covering their asses for I mean we don't really know what the real terminology is. It's a comic book movie, you know, get over it type thing.
Right.
What else in this movie? It kind of like it's really fast paced in like the last half of it, which I did like. Like I thought it was really enjoyable, but it makes it hard to talk about because it's just like everything happens in the last half of this movie.
I'm glad there's like, again, I didn't see the last movie, but I've seen clips of it with trailers and yada yada yada. But I'm so glad there's not like scenes where it's kind of like, I gotta escape outside the bathtub drain kind of. And where like now it's kind of advanced to like during fight scenes, like get very small, get very big, get very small, get very big, where it's kind of like invisibility. But just through size.
Yeah, I mean, like the first one was definitely him learning how to use the suit. So there was like some comedy with that. And just like introducing us to the physics of the suit. So.
I'm so glad this isn't like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids the entire time.
It's a little bit of what Ant-Man was.
Yes, I can imagine that, yeah.
I really, really like the truth serum sequence in this.
Oh my god, it's the best sequence in the film.
Like, I think it's like some of the best like comedic acting that Michael Pena has done in a while. Because I thought he was a little too much in the first movie, and this is just like I think like his character's comedic timing is starting to get like rounded out a little bit better in this. Where it is that just kind of like excited earnestness to his character. And yeah, like under truth serum, he's just like revealing like these like, you know, strange things and telling just too much details about everything rather than like, you know, telling like the exact thing they want to hear. And
they have like
I like his like obsession with Ant-Man and the Wasp's like romantic relationship where he like knows all these details that like I kind of feel like Ant-Man probably didn't tell him. He's just like, you know, watching and inferring all this stuff about them. I thought that was a really nice comedic sequence. It had a great payoff in the one like scientist being like, "Oh, it is truth serum."
I do like that scene because the way that it's just like it's a sequence that could have gone so wrong and worked so they could have not worked.
They could have fit in a lot of like really cheap jokes, like just a stock like a stock amount of like truth serum jokes, like, oh, like, are you wearing any underpants, or just like stupid stuff that it doesn't exist. You know, like it's a joke that could work in any truth serum scene in any movie.
Right.
But these jokes are like specific to this movie and specific to this character.
Right.
It's, they imagine this character and then said, all right, now put this character on truth serum. How does that character react? That's what makes that scene really work for me.
Right, but they do like a number of sequences in the kind of like drunk history format.
Yeah, like acting out his narration.
Right, yeah, and I feel like that could have gone wrong, but like everyone it's so well done. Like even like the Hope character or the what is her
Kate.
Actual name?
Evangeline Lilly.
Oh, okay. She kind of looks like she's fucking miserable this entire movie, and I think that's just her character. But she kind of like actually looks like she's like enjoying herself when she's doing like this kind of.
Yeah, because he's smiling when he says everything.
Yeah.
So all the characters he's narrating for are like, yeah.
Everybody, and everybody, and I hate when people are like, oh, it looks like the actors are actually having fun, but like it does. It looks like it's just a funny. It works that way. And then even all of the interactions before that, I don't know who that comedic actor is, or I don't know who that one actor is who's one of his henchmen.
I've seen him in something else, but I can't.
He's really great, but I think the writing's even like better because it's kind of like one of those things where it's kind of like, oh, you know, truth serum's not actually a real thing, kind of. It's actually and it's funny that it harps so hard on that. Yeah, it's just funny. It's a good scene.
It's funny.
It works really well.
Going back to Kate Evangeline Lilly, I think one of my bigger sort of like broader complaints about this movie is that like you get this name, like you call the movie Ant-Man and the Wasp, and it implies this sort of like partnership, and I feel like we don't really get that. Because because it's a story that's not about them fighting crime, really. Like they're kind of looking out for their own interests, and he's kind of just roped in. He's not like doing anything for like the good of mankind or whatever. And that's fine. I think it's more just a complaint against the title of this movie because I think it's misleading. I think it makes you think it's going to be this like partner team building movie where. Especially because the movie like opens on them like being sort of at odds in a poorly established way, but it's like so poorly established that like I don't even really believe that they're at odds. Like he kind of just seems like he's, you know, hanging out with his buddies again in Hank and Hope when he's back there, and then like I felt like it kind of just slipped too easily into they're okay again, and I felt like it should have been more of a struggle. So that it was like this actual big moment of like, oh, now the Ant-Man and the Wasp are fighting together, like the title implied. Like they should have been separated more in this movie or something. Like, but they're together for most of it, so it's not like a big deal when they like team up and like fight together. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean, like I said before, I think Hope and Hank do look fucking miserable this entire movie, and I don't know if that's like part of the first movie either, or they're just mad at him. But yeah, no, there's definitely there's not as much of this kind of partnership during this movie, which is why I feel like the trailer feels like they need to put in that one like cut where it's kind of like, okay, I go low and you go high, and like, why would you go high? I have the wings or whatever.
mm-hmm.
That never makes it like that never makes the cut in the movie. There's really never any scene where they're communicating like that, where it's kind of...
and it's just like, you can tell it was like, I don't know if stuff just got cut, like that scene, like a bunch of scenes like that got cut, or if it was just like they had this like vague idea of like, oh, wouldn't that be cool, and never really like fleshed it out, because they also have the scene with his daughter, which I think is great in a movie where they flesh out that partnership and also flesh out the divide beforehand so that the partnership has more impact. Right. But he has that scene with his daughter where she's like, well, I could be your partner. And he's like, no. And he's like, well, you should make like you should make Hope like your partner. And like the whole idea of like, you just need somebody watching your back. Like, in that scene, it's for like another movie almost, like because there's not really any time where he like struggles on his own. He's just with them the entire time. Like, they needed him to be on his own and struggling, and then that scene happens, and it's like, you know what? Yeah, I do need to like work with a partner. I do need someone watching my back. And then they reconcile their differences and they work together, and they're a great crime fighting team. And you don't even have to change like the villain thing, but just like further emphasize the divide, like make it like a struggle for him to be on his own and not have someone watching his back. And then they partner up and they kick ass, and they're doing like cool fighting moves together rather than just existing in the same movie and fighting crime. Like, they're not really working together.
Yeah.
In like, I mean, in terms of like physically, like in the same spot. Like, I feel like there's got to be some cool fight choreography that could have involved two of them at the same time. Yeah,
definitely. Instead of, I feel like the only time that they fight together is in that scene where she's in trouble in the very beginning.
Yeah.
When Ghost first appears, and I think that's literally it. And again, they don't go in together intentionally. He's just kind of like, I need to put on the suit. She's in trouble. Yeah. And they don't have a scene where it's kind of like, you go low, I go high kind of thing. Yeah, so it is like kind of a weird partnership, but I have a feeling they probably also titled it that because, like, oh, the Wasp is gonna be in Infinity War 2, and you know, she's gonna be a real superhero, and she's gotta be in the title. I don't know.
I mean, it does seem like the logical title. I don't know what you would, besides just Ant-Man 2, what else you would call this movie. I just wish they had like taken advantage of that title and been like, there's like a built-in storyline to this that we could have, like, you know, really fleshed out a lot nicer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did think the flashback scene was a little confusing with what's the girl's name? Ava.
Okay.
With the like Bill Burr knockoff looking guy as her father. Because the way it was like described, like, it's just confusing because like Bill Foster, the Lawrence Fishburne character, is a former partner of Hank Pym's, and then she starts talking about her dad, and I thought she was literally talking about Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah.
And then you come to find out it's this like Bill Burr guy who never gets any speaking lines and is in like the flashback, and it was just kind of confusing for a bit there. Like, I feel like it's weird to have both of those characters come from the former place that he used to work.
I was like, was Lawrence Fishburne supposed to be like pale in a past life? Like, just like in his like
I was like, oh, like there's a lot of like, yeah, he looks
yeah. It
less like Lawrence Fishburne right now, more like Bill Burr.
Yeah, it was
more like an Irish man.
It was just weird. It was a weird scene. That was definitely the most boring part of this movie, was the exposition of Ghost. And again, Ghost is also just a boring character.
She's poorly defined. Like they have the one scene where she had like a little bit of charisma, where like she wakes up Paul Rudd and she's kind of like flirting with him, but then that side of her never comes back again. She's never flirty again, and she's like immediately mean to the other ones. And I thought that was like when that happened, I was kind of like, oh, is she going to be one of the superheroes that like we are super villains that we want to like? But she just ends up doing like messed up stuff, you know, and it didn't turn out that way at all. Because then she's immediately like rude to Hank and Hope, and it just becomes less easy to discern like what exactly is going on there. Like, is that flirting because Paul Rudd is just irresistible in that scene, or is it because like she hasn't like touched anybody in a while, but she shouldn't be able to touch him either because of her like weird. So I don't know why he stands out as the person she's like flirting with there and being nice with. It's strange.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I don't completely understand it.
I do really like the last sort of like chase sequence, just because like I had said before, I think it's a nice device that they have sort of three parties that are interested in the same thing. So it's not just, 1v1 with Ghost and Ant-Man the entire time. Like it's nice to have like the Sonny Birch character and all his like henchmen as this kind of like fodder that like they can be like, especially in a car crash scene, if you can have a car crash here and another car crash over here and keep going with that. And
oh no,
it's
definitely.
nice that like he'll get the lab at one moment and then Ghost will steal it, and then they'll steal it back from Ghost, and they're kind of just playing hot potato with this important technological equipment.
Yeah, I feel like I've said this in a review before, where I literally said, I literally described a scene as like everybody wants the box scene, and like this is literally a box that like everybody it's a everybody wants the box scene. And those are usually like a lot of fun. And that's what that is.
I wasn't crazy about the like being in the quantum realm stuff.
I just hate when the Marvel universe tries to be like trippy. Like
I liked it in Doctor Strange.
I was about to say I don't like it in Doctor Strange. This is a little more bearable because they do some sort of like pan tilt or whatever, and I don't know. And I immediately had so many questions. I was like, how has she lived down there for 30 years?
Yeah, what is she eating?
Yeah, exactly. First thing I thought of, I was like, what this bitch eating? And like,
I guess if she was like a subatomic scientist, like Hank is, maybe she knows that there's certain subatomic things that she could consume for I know it's a stretch. I'm making a stretch here to try to make it make sense.
Or they were even going into, I forget who says it, but it was just kind of like, I don't know. They were like, time and space is completely different down there. And I was like, well, then why did she age exactly like you guys did? I was just, I don't know. I like also wouldn't be surprised. Like it would have been like weird and trippy if she came out like the same age she went in or something. Or, I mean, I thought it was cool that she like was different, I
feel like she's going to play a bigger, like a big part in the sort of conclusion to Avengers Infinity War, because they kind of had like an untouched thing where she was talking about like, she's like, yeah, I'm not the same person I was when I went down there. And she's like, part of it was like adaptability, but like the other part was like evolution. And I feel like that's hinting the fact that she's probably become some type of, especially her costuming, she's definitely become some type of superhero that probably was in the comics at some point somewhere, which means that she'll show up in the resolution to Avengers Infinity War, whatever part 2 or whatever they're calling it is, and whatever power she gained at the subatomic level, I'm sure are going to have some impact on how that storyline plays out.
And I do like the what's it called? I do like the scene where she like enters
his body, and Paul Rudd is kind of like acting like the Janet character, kind of, and I thought that was kind of like acting chops on Paul Rudd's side, and then also it was humorous, and it was a nice touch where it was just kind of like, I think, like, wasn't somebody in Jeremy Renner's body like during the first Avengers movie? I thought this was
It
like,
might have been after I turned it off.
yeah, I just thought this was such a nicer job of somebody, even though there's no fucking logistics explained of like, how is she in this person's body? How is she, leaving something in his like fucking brain as,
Quantum entanglement, Joe.
Yes, exactly. I feel like I'm trying to explain, what's it called again? What was that other movie? Wrinkle in Time. Again.
Oh, fuck it.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. Yeah, I guess the other thing we could talk about, I mean, the ending is pretty, they get the lab back, they bring Janet back, and he gets his house arrest done away with, and he can, now is free to leave the house and celebrate with his family.
And Janet touches Ghost, and Ghost is okay.
I feel like they were, like, I think she was temporarily healed, but then in the mid-credit scene, aren't they going to get like healing particles from the whatever? I thought it was for Ghost.
Oh yes, that is correct. Yes.
Yeah, I think she's just like temporarily healed. I'm assuming Janet has somehow absorbed some of the healing particles, which is a really cheesy name.
Yes.
But yeah, and then we have that mid-credit scene, and Ant-Man goes down into the quantum realm again to get the healing particles, and while he's down there, the events of Infinity War happen, and the characters are turned into ash. They don't feel so good.
Even more awkward, Ant-Man wasn't invited to fight Thanos! Everybody else is invited back except Ant-Man. He must feel like a real dummy.
Was it a joke from somewhere?
No, he's just literally the only superhero is besides Hawkeye, I guess.
Well, I guess he's under house arrest, and
No, that ended. Like, I feel like he got his little ankle thing off. He got his house arrest ankle monitor off.
oh, so you think it's a big enough passage in time after the ankle monitor goes off that? I thought that was just kind of like right around the corner.
Oh no,
I don't know if they showed a.
I don't know. I mean, even if I feel like they just don't even bother contacting him. Just kind of like they don't bother contacting Hawkeye. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Hawkeye's not going to help.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they feel the same way about Ant-Man, where they're kind of like, man, I can't believe he got caught.
I feel like,
What a loser.
I feel like Ant-Man's powers would be. I feel like they're pretty useful. I feel like he's a pretty powerful superhero with that suit, at least. But I don't really care.
Yeah, I don't really care.
It's all pretty meaningless. I feel like we've made this sound a little bit more lackluster than it is. I mean, I guess we haven't really trashed this, but it was, I don't know, it was a really fun
It was what it was.
movie. I was pleasantly surprised because I didn't really like the first Ant-Man movie, and I had a lot of complaints with it. And I don't have a whole lot that I can like really levy against this movie. It was definitely, I had a few like actual like gut laughs in the theater. A lot of them because of Paul Rudd. I feel like Paul Rudd was a little bit better, and I feel like he started off a little weak. It was a little bit of him just like delivering some of these like forced punchlines, and then he kind of like settles in and is allowed to play more into like Paul Rudd's actual like way of delivering lines and in comedy. Like there's the one part when he's talking to Kate about she's like, oh, like that's where I would hide every single night for hide and seek, and he's like,
yes, yeah.
I don't think you really understand how the game works. He had a few lines like that were just like very, very Paul Rudd delivery in a good way.
It did almost feel like though, like Marvel was. And I don't know if this applies to the first movie, where they like Marvel was almost relying too heavily on Paul Rudd to be like, he's funny guy, like he'll funny this up, kind of, you know. Where like a lot of the time I was like, that wasn't funny. Paul Rudd, you're funnier than this.
You're funnier than the script.
That
You're
wasn't
carrying
funny.
the
Yes.
script.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Where he wasn't, he's far from the funniest character in this movie.
You think?
Yeah.
Who would you put as the funniest?
Definitely Michael Pena.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that one scene is really funny.
I think he's consistently funny, and I think he's supposed to be nothing but funny because he's the funny best friend character, which is crazy. That like I also think this is pretty genre bending because Michael Pena is playing kind of like funny best friend, as if this is like a romantic comedy kind of.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that was also in like Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Mm-hmm.
With what was the character? Jed or Ned or
one of those. No, I even think I don't know.
I could do with that T.I. in this movie.
He has like 2 lines. Like
he was a bigger presence in the first movie.
Oh, okay.
It was part of why I didn't like that movie.
I mean, what's his name? The FBI agent is a funnier character than Paul Rudd, obviously, because Paul Rudd kind of plays the straight man around him. Yeah, I think there's a few funnier characters than Paul Rudd. But I mean, again, if Paul Rudd was the funniest, he also has to be this leading man. I don't know.
He looks good.
He does. Like, he does good. Yeah.
Right. Like.
Mm-hmm.
He's someone that like I never really realized was like such like a heartthrob for a lot of like people.
Right.
I guess from like Clueless and like some of like his earlier stuff.
Right.
But he's like starting to age pretty well. Like
yeah, definitely.
He's gonna look like a real fox when he gets that silver hair in there.
Right. Yeah. Where I felt like.
Anyway, that was my oogling over Paul Rudd.
I felt like
section of the podcast.
I felt like what's her name wasn't that attractive.
Oh, Kate?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's just because I'm still in the midst of rewatching Lost right now.
Which was years ago.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, Kate, love ya.
Then I watched her in this movie. I'm kind of like.
I didn't like her in the first one because they gave her that weird funky haircut.
Right.
Like they show it in this one, but like she looks
really
great with just the natural haircut.
Is there any reason why she went from that haircut?
I don't know if they were like thinking this far ahead or they needed to show a passage of time. I don't know. It just looks like a wig. It was.
She grew a lot of hair. That means she older.
She didn't get a dumbass haircut. She matured.
Oh man, movies.
Really getting some ratings.
She grow that hair though. That means she older now. Yeah.
I feel like her haircut in the first one might have had to do like I feel like it was clearly a wig, and like maybe it was meant to be a wig in the first one, and maybe it had to do with them being like criminals, and she's not like a criminal for money, but criminal for whatever their shit that they're trying to do is. Anyway, the review aggregation website Rotten Tomatoes reported an approval rating of 87% based on 171 reviews and an average rating of 7 out of 10. The website's critical consensus reads, a lighter, brighter superhero movie powered by the effortless charisma of Paul Rudd and Evangeline Lilly. Ant-Man and the Wasp offers a much-needed MCU palate cleanser. That's where I read that phrase. From my boys at Rotten Tomatoes bringing those hot synopsis.
I think a lot of people have used that term.
It's accurate. Numbers, ratings for this movie.
I think I'm going to give it 3 fingers. It's better than average.
I thought you were going to go much higher with that.
Um,
Sounded very positive on this movie.
I did. I almost want to give it something more positive, but I also feel weird giving. I don't know. I was thinking about 3.5, but I just don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I literally even think I enjoyed this more than like Infinity War. Which I gave it 3.5. I don't know. Just at the time, 3 makes the most sense to me. It's a 3 film. I enjoyed it a lot. Yeah.
Well, weirdly, even though I had more criticisms of this movie than
Did
you
you?
did,
Oh,
I feel like I did.
I feel like you just criticized the first movie a lot.
Yeah. I'm gonna give this 3.5. I think that feels right. It was solidly entertaining. I had some of my bigger laughs of the year. I laughed harder at this.
It was like a really decent comedy.
I laughed
movie.
harder at this than I did at like Blockers or a few other comedies that, really tried to make us laugh and just totally failed this year.
I probably laughed more at this than like Game Night even.
Yeah. There was definitely some missed opportunities in the story. Like I mentioned with, the development of their like partnership in there. But there's some touching moments in here. I think there's a lot of new characters introduced that are fun and interesting. Yeah, 3.5 feels right. It's above average.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a solid superhero movie. I wish it wasn't tied to the original Ant-Man. But that's right. It's fine. A nice palate cleanser after Avengers Infinity War. So that'll come to 3.25 repeating, rounding down to 3 fingers from us here at the podcast. What's that little smirk for?
I feel like I brought it down. I feel like I should have given it a 3.5.
It's not too late.
Oh, go now! I'm just kidding. No, I'm gonna leave it where it is.
You're gonna pull a Kevin Pettyjohn?
Yeah, 5 fingers.
If you agree or disagree, make sure you leave a comment below on SoundCloud, YouTube, or hit us up on Twitter. Or most importantly, join our Facebook group, How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The Facebook group, and join the discussion that's already in progress there about Ant-Man. And any future movies or trailers or memes or whatever that we might share in that group in the future.
Right.
And you can go to howmanyfingerspodcast.com for any other links. I'm sure Joe will cover any pressing news in the intro to this. Check out a review of Sicario Day of the Soldado last week and Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom the week before that. I really had to stretch to remember what movies we just reviewed
Today.
An hour ago.
Yes.
But I think that's it for us here on this episode. So signing out for How Many Fingers Podcast, I'm Mike.
I'm Joe.
And we'll see you on the next one, boys and girls.
Gotta include them both.